Well, what do you think? This amplifier with retro materials powered by a PC power supply? Incredible? How does it sound? The tube has such a clean and warm sound that it's incomparable. Today I'm going to show you how I did it, so don't go anywhere. A few days ago before Christmas, my friend who fixes computers came over and gave me these PC power supplies and other treasures for me. Well, he looked like Santa Claus. 2 of these power supplies worked, and the one I'm going to use is this one. This one actually the problem was very simple to fix. It was a cold solder joint on the fuse, and it sparked when it was turned on. This project has been on my mind for a while now, and it's to build a stereo tube audio amplifier. And well, honestly, you've already seen how it turned out, and it sounds spectacular. Some time ago, I was also given this little box with television tubes, and there are 2 identical pentodes, which are the PL84, so I'm going to use these 2 as well. Digging through the transformer drawer, I found 2 old radio audio transformers. But anyway, if you guys are going to take on this, if you're going to venture into this project, you can try with 220 to 12 transformers, which I think will work well. The 220 part is the one that carries the plus V, the voltage, the high voltage, to the tube plate, and the 12 volts would be the ones that go to the speaker. The idea is to power the whole set with voltages from the DPC power supply. The 15 volts for the filament would initially come from the minus 12 and plus 3 volts, which add up to 15. Since these tubes, the PL84S, operate with that voltage and for high voltage, I took from another power supply, which I have half stripped, a chopper transformer and the 2 big electrolytic capacitors. And I also took out 4 fast diodes, the fast recovery, 1005 SE. And I connected one of the low voltage windings from the transformer I took from the other power supply to the 5 volt alternating current output. Well, here I'll show you. Where do you have to connect it in the schematic of a typical PC power supply? I assembled it. It's very simple. It's a bridge with 4 diodes and 2 capacitors, and I placed it in a free spot inside the power supply. And I also added a 220,000 ohm resistor, which is for drainage. In case the electrolytics remain charged, as you can see, I have rectified about 160 volts more or less. More or less. That's the voltage. If you want, you can even change it and get more voltage. Anyway, I put 2 470 by 200 volt electrolytics in series, just in case I ever want to increase the voltage. Some might think, well, why didn't I use the 310 volts that I already have? The power supply on the hot side? Well, maybe it could be done to have the amplifier galvanically isolated. I preferred to make this arrangement where the negative is directly grounded to the cold side of the power supply, which wouldn't have been the case if I had used the others, the 310s. I'm not going to go too deep into the most tedious part of the project, which is making the holes and installing the transformers. Well, all those things on the power supply cover. So, well, I'll show you more or less how it turned out, how the power supply cover looks with the holes. To improve the aesthetics a bit, since the transformers were pretty ugly, they're old transformers, I made a little box for them with the 3D printer. You can see it here. I also salvaged a speaker terminal block from a board. I don't know where it came from, but it was there. And, well, it turned out pretty decent. It looks nice. The circuit for each channel of the amplifier, which is stereo as I mentioned, is this one. It's very simple and uses very, very few components. Here you can see this part already assembled. I made it as symmetrical as I could. I used some of the socket pins as a bridge since the tube doesn't have electrodes on those pins. So I took advantage of the socket itself to use it as a bridge. Specifically, it's pin 6 and pin 8, which aren't connected in the pentode, and that's where they're used. The first problem I found was that when I connected the filaments of the two tubes to the 15 volts I made with the -12 and +3, the protection would activate. As my friend Angel, who's my electronics advisor, told me, those 12 volts are just for show and shouldn't be used. Well, he says to use the 12 volts directly, and it's sure to work well with that voltage. And, in fact, both tubes are powered with 12 volts for the filament, instead of the 15 they're supposed to have. Here you can see a test where I touch the grids with my finger to check that both channels were working. I tried connecting the signal directly to the grids from my phone, but that didn't work. There, in that part, there's a very high impedance that the tubes have at the grid, and I needed a preamplifier, but I didn't have any space left to add another tube. Under the guidance of my friend, I made a preamp with 2 transistors, field effect. Here I put the schematic. It has 3 resistors and 2 capacitors. Super simple. It's 1 for each tube, right? And well, I made it on a perforated board with 2 FETs I had on hand, which are the 2 SK121. But you can use any field effect transistor like an MPF 102, whatever you have on hand. Will work. You can use any channel type. The rest is all custom made. The amplifier, the front panel, I made it out of acrylic cut and engraved with a laser. And 2 speakers. Well, they have to be speakers with an enclosure so they sound good. To enjoy tube amplification. Honestly, it sounds beautiful. Because of copyright, I can't play music by La Bonita, but just feel how it sounds. And live and in person it sounds even better. 0 noise. I thought I was going to have problems with the noise from the switching power supply, but honestly, you don't feel anything in the speaker. I know you'll probably have questions, so I'll be waiting for them in the comments. And if it's necessary, I'll make some short videos showing or expanding on any doubts you might have. Give it a like and subscribe to the channel by clicking the bell so you get notifications when I upload new content. You can also join, and in that case, I'll add you to a WhatsApp group with the other members. Prizes? Thank you so much for watching the video, and see you next time, God willing.